So good morning, Anne. Anne has joined us to talk about her healing journey of back pain and other issues. So thank you for coming. And please, can you share with us how everything started?
Sure. And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am 58, so we'll get that out. We'll get that out of the way. And I had suffered from some sort of chronic pain off and on for 30 plus years. And the list is extensive. Because I don't like to dwell on pain and diagnoses, I don't really go into details on them. However, I recognize that people like to hear success stories with the diagnoses that they have had. So here's my laundry list of diagnoses. Scoliosis, which they used to tell me why I had leg length discrepancy, back pain, my back would go out. Of course, we know now backs don't go out, but that's what it feels like. It's a very descriptive, because all of a sudden your back just won't work. So it feels very descriptive. Chronic pain, all different places in my back, shoulders, knees, they used the scoliosis as a reason for all of that. I had widespread pain, which was diagnosed as fibromyalgia. So I had all the fibromyalgia pain. And if people are suffering from fibromyalgia, that's a pain that's hard to explain. It's not really in your bones, it's not really in your joints, and it's not really in your muscles like you worked out. It's somewhere in between the two, and it's this deep ache. It just aches. And of course, pain is tiring. So when you're in that kind of whole body ache, you also have fatigue. You can have brain fog because you're not thinking about anything except, the pain and surviving the next minute. I used to say fibromyalgia it's not that any minute was so horrible, but it was a culmination of all the minutes, all the days, all the months, all the years. That was so horrible about that one. And it really steals your life. I had stomach issues.
Emotional pain added to it.
An emotional pain, yes, because you feel very helpless and hopeless and frustrated, and somehow like you're failing life, right? And envious of those who do not have it, and don't have to deal with these issues. But anyway, stomach pain, chronic Lyme disease. After the fibromyalgia, they couldn't really fix me because it's not really fixable. I went to I had a sinus infection one time and I went on an antibiotic and I felt a little bit better. So then they jumped on, oh, maybe you have chronic Lyme. And so I went on multiple rounds of antibiotics and sat in hot saunas to try to kill spirochetes that were in my body. Crazy stuff.
Which modalities did you use for the pains and for the fibromyalgia?
I am lucky in that I only used over-the-counter pain meds. I never went on an opioid pain medicine, mainly because there's addiction in my family. And I just had this gut instinct that once you start down that path, there is no path out, right? I mean, it wasn't like that medicine was going to cure me, right? It was simply a symptom management. And I could see that all that it was a symptom management. And they were very, the doctors were very like, this is how we manage symptoms. I'm like, well, so I went through a whole bunch of years looking for a cure for the fibromyalgia, all sorts of blood tests, naturopathic cures, Chinese medicines, thousands of dollars on supplements, and it never helped me, quite frankly. I went on multiple different types of diet, gluten-free, anti-inflammatory, vegan. I was sure that it was something systemic. This is a very interesting part here. I was absolutely sure it was something systemic because it would come and go. Some days were worse than others. And so I really wanted a systemic, cure. I felt like that was part of it. And I had my water tested, I had my air tested in my house a couple of different times. And what's humorous about that is I really was on the right track. It was systemic.
Can I ask?
But it was my brain. It was my brain and my nervous system that was the system. It was not, that the water had something in it here. It was the brain and the nervous system. That was the system.
Do you remember a time of a dark moment where you felt depressed, frustrated, that you felt?
There's a couple. There's a couple of really dark moments.
Can you?
One of them was during the fibromyalgia days, and my husband had brought home a little plastic card, and on one side, like a 3x5 card, and one side said good day and the other side said bad day, so that I could leave it out. And it was compassionate on his part, but I didn't. It kind of brought it home to me. This is where we are right now. So I could leave it out and on the counter, and I could leave it out as good day or bad day. And he could tell at an instant, just by looking at the card, where I was and whether he could hug me or not. Because if it was bad day, I was in too much pain to even get a hug. And he knew to just be quiet and gentle and kind of tiptoe around, right? And I thought that was just so depressing to me that we had gotten to the point where my husband was afraid to give me a hug. I mean, it was just very sad.
No, because fibro, you cannot touch the person. They are in.
It was just, my bucket was completely full. I could not handle one more drop of anything. I could not carry one more person's energy. I was just barely carrying my own energy. And that's how it was. It wasn't so much that a hug hurt, because he could have hugged gently, right? It's just the energy from the other person. I could not absorb it because I was too much in my own pain and my own suffering to take on anyone else's.
Even if it is a positive energy, even if it's a
positive energy.
Can I ask you, what was the turning point? So you suffered 3 years like this, more or less.
30. 3 decades. Yes, 30.
Since the age of 20.
In my 20s, right. Early 20s, over 3 decades. The turning point was, the body will whisper to you, and then it will talk to you, and then it will scream at you. And so the turning point for me was when it screamed. And it was in 2017, my back completely failed me. I rolled over to get out of bed and I could not move. I was paralyzed. I mean, and I had lots of back pain. I had been through, 20 chiropractors, physical therapists, et cetera, over the 30 years time. But I had never had it where I just couldn't move. Like if the building had been on fire, I would not have been able to get out. I was paralyzed. And it was extremely frightening. I thought for sure I had, by sleeping, I thought I had, damaged, a disc had bulged or ruptured or something like that. I was sure that it was surgery. I was sure that it was the most terrifying thing ever. It was absolutely, and the pain was unreal. I mean, I've had 2 babies. The pain was unreal. It was nothing compared to childbirth. So that was the turning point. And I thought I was going to have to get the fire department to get me out of bed. And luckily, my phone was right by the bed. So I was able to call my husband, have him come home, and he could help me. And I started this long, slow rehabilitation. but I did it the traditional way. I went to physical therapy. I got meds, right? Then I really did take pain relievers that had
So how did you
that were prescription because I had to. But the following year, this was in July of 2017. The following year, in July of 2018, it happened again. And so that is the turning point. It was a watershed moment. What is happening in July? But it happens, every July. And it hadn't happened every July, but the fact that it happened 2 Julys in a row was telling to me. And I started to examine, well, there were things in July that were sad in my life that I had sad and big feelings about. And so I literally, laying in bed, Googled back pain and sadness. And up came all this information that there, lo and behold, there is a connection between pain and our emotions. And I started to read because I had nothing better to do. And that was the turning point.
So what did you do in order to heal? How was the healing?
Yeah, so I started to read some of the better known books, and Dr. John Sarno would be one. Steve Ozanich is another, on mind, body, and how it can affect chronic pain. And I started to see myself in every page that I read. And one of the main ways I saw myself, besides the pain pattern, this pain that, debilitating pain that comes out of nowhere, right? That can go from side to side, that moves, that waxes and wanes, that wasn't necessarily caused by an injury, or what, if it was an injury, it was should have been healed a long time ago. I started to see myself on every page. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is me. And then they got to the personality traits. And I checked a lot of boxes on the personality traits. I want to do, especially the goodest. I want to be good. I want to do good things. I want to do good for others. I see injustice in the world. I want to try to take it very personally, and like I can help. I'm overly responsible. I'm self-critical. I mean, just go down the list of the personality traits. And it was just like, check, 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 check.
Wow.
So that made me a believer.
Was it a book cure, or you did the work?
I was certainly not a book cure. It took, I wish it was, because, I wanted one, and you hear about a book cure and you want that for yourself because you are sick of being in pain, but it was not one. It took me many, many months. This was in 2018. So the amount of books and coaches and consultants that were out there was pretty limited back in 2018, believe it or not. It was just really starting to take off. And so I followed Nicole Sachs in the journal speak method. And I journaled my emotions out every day, really trying to get to repressed emotions. Ends up I had a whole bunch of them. I didn't really think I repressed emotions, because I feel all the emotions. I feel anger, I feel sadness, I feel grief. I'm not repressing anything. And yet I was, because that's where the personality traits come in that quest to be good and thought of as being good and have it all together. I was repressing a lot of emotions, layers and layers and layers of emotions. So it took several months of journaling for me to get out of the weeds. I knew it was working though, because it started to move around. The pain started to move around. And so I did consult with a chronic pain coach, and I used her, and she was great. She's no longer in business, so I can't recommend her, but she did help me a lot to say, you're already healed. Your body is fine. You just have to know that and believe that, and send messages of safety to your body. And she really worked on that part with me.
And was the symptoms healing gradually or at once? Did you know?
It was a gradual unwinding. And honestly, it was really interesting because it basically unwound in the order that I had gotten them, or maybe the order of fear that I had around them. So, you know, like one, I had foot pain, and one of the diagnoses was not enough fatty deposits on my feet. And I always thought that that was bogus. I mean, talk about a dumb diagnosis. I don't have enough fat on the bottom of my feet, and that's why I have feet pain. That's ridiculous. And so even at the time, I thought it was ridiculous. So that pain resolved really quickly because I really had no belief in that pain to begin with. I thought it was dumb. But the low back, the one where all the fear was, and the one that was so debilitating to me, that was the last one to heal. And that would make sense, right? Once we know that would be the last one to resolve. So they kind of unwound in order that I got them.
So if you had to give an advice to someone that is listening to you, hearing you, and seeing you, and he's in a kind, mainly it's women, in the same situation that you were back there, what would you tell him or her when they are, what is your best advice to?
Yeah, my best advice would be to open your mind, to realize that pain, and honestly, a lot of symptoms that can't be described, like, you know, a lot of the fibromyalgia symptoms or the chronic stomach symptoms, they are complex. And yes, sometimes there's a biological reason, like if I drop a hammer on my toe, it's going to hurt, right? Strictly biological. But there's also psychological and social reasons for pain. Pain is very complex. And we have to address all of those at one time.
Let's say that they accept it and they accept the body-mind connection and they are in the journey. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to find a program that works for them and stick with it. So research the different programs that are out there and find the one that really seems to fit them and fit their personality, and commit themselves to it and work it. Because what I see when I work with clients, when they come to me, they will have tried a lot of different programs, but they'll only have tried it for like a month or so. And then it doesn't work for them, or they even get worse, and they jump ship and go to another program. Yeah. And they end up chasing the mind-body connection healing, just like they chased physical modalities of healing. And because we're used to that. We go to this doctor and then that doctor and this specialist, and then we try these herbs, and then we try this chiropractor, and all of that chasing just inflames us further and ignites our cycle of pain and fear even more. And when they go find the mind-body connection and they try something and it doesn't work right away, they're like, oh no. And then they try something else and that doesn't work right away. And they're like, oh no. And so now they're in that same exact pattern of chasing fear, disappointment that they were in the medical model. And that is exactly what we do not want, right? It's a distraction from your threat of safety. It's a distraction from your emotions that might be threatening to you. So my advice is to go ahead and analyze the different programs, and then pick one that seems like it would be well suited for your personality. You know, if you don't like to write, and writing is, you don't like it, you've never liked it, did poorly in school with it, don't choose journaling as your path, because that's not going to be helpful. Choose a different path, right? But then stick with it. It may take several months. Your symptoms will wax and wane. That's what they do. That's more proof. You got to stick with it.
And so you're talking about consistency, sticking with one method, yep. Not chasing, because chasing, I think, is also part of the TMS personality, which is strive.
Exactly.
And
Well, we instinctively, we know something's not right. We know something's wrong, and we want better for ourselves. We want to be healthy. We want to be well. We want to be vibrant. So we know that. And so we're chasing that in the medical model. And when that fails us and we finally, or our body, for like me, my body screams and I'm finally like, okay, I'll open my mind and look somewhere else.
so it took you something.
It's tempting to chase there too, because that's our pattern.
It took you something like 7 months to be symptom free?
You know, it took several months and they unwound. It took over a year for the back to completely resolve. And you know, but it was getting better and better and better, or changing, or different things coming up. And I just kept going. I just kept going.
Now you tackle an occasional pain that comes. It might be in the back or in the foot or
right. Yep, I can have a flare. It'll always be in my back. I haven't had, well, occasionally I'll have a flare in a strange symptom, but I pay no attention. One of the strange symptoms that I had was phantom smells. I smelled smoke when there was no smoke. And it's a not very often talked about mind body symptom, but it exists. And I think with long haul COVID, it's going to be really interesting, these phantom smells. But anyway, I would smell smoke when there was no smoke.
So what is your relationship?
But if I smell smoke now, I'm like, this is an awesome symptom, because I know that something's not right in my mind body system. I need to soothe. I need to get back to what's distressing me. What pressure am I putting on myself? And it's a symptom that like doesn't hurt, right? It's annoying and weird, but it doesn't hurt. So when if that flares, I'm like, cool, awesome, great messenger body, thank you, received. And because there's no fear related to it, it goes away quickly. I mean, it'll be like 5 minutes and it's gone. But it's the low back flares that always has my attention, because there's more fear related to it. And I know that, and I know that, and I know I have to, and I still work at it. I still work at my own, I'm still a human, and I still have human responses and stressors, and I'm on the journey too.
Yeah. Can you say, but so your relationship with pain now versus the past? If an occasional pain comes now, how are you responding differently? I mean, actual, on a pragmatic basis. What is your inner self-talk now versus the inner self-talk back then?
Right. So the inner self back then was fear, frustration. Oh no, how long is this going to last? I got to run to some specialist somewhere. I got to run to a pill bottle somewhere. I've got to, dive in to this, chiropractor or PT, or in a lot of self, just poor me, right? Just a lot of self-pity that this is happening again, and other people don't have to struggle with it. That was my self-talk then. My self-talk now is, my initial thought is, no, right? So frustration still there, right? Because nobody likes pain. Pain is painful. Then it's immediately, what are my emotions? What was I thinking about right before this, or the day before, the last 24 hours, right? So it could be just like right before this, but it could be over the last 24 hours. What has happened? What have I been thinking about? I will, what are my emotions around that? What could be some layers of emotions under there? So maybe maybe I'm resentful on something. Well, what's under resentment? Well, under resentment is, anger. And under that is envy, right? And under that is anger at yourself, that you're angry or envious. Well, you see, so you're going for those layers and layers and layers. And that's my relationship with pain now. Pain is a messenger to me. I still wish I didn't have it. So it's not like I welcome it, but I do look upon it as a messenger, and I am grateful for it. In the end, I'm not grateful for it when I'm in it, but after I'm out of it, and I have learned so much about myself or my relationships with others, or how I need to show up better for myself. I'm always grateful for it in the end, always.
For the pain. Now you are grateful.
For the pain. Yep. Yep.
So,
not when again, it's hard to be grateful for pain when you're in it because it's painful.
No, but back then you were opposing it and rejecting it, and now you are even, in a way, you are embracing it. And
yes. Yes, it's a different energy, totally with it. And I'm not going to tell you it's not scary. It is scary when you're in pain, really bad pain. If it's a really, and it's hard. It's hard for anybody, right? It just is. And it will bring up fear in me. It will bring up sadness in me. And then I move beyond that. I don't stay there, right? So I don't deny that I'm not sad or fearful. And I move beyond it.
I have 3 more questions. Can you just in 1 or 2 sentences summarize how is your life now different than the life that you had when you had the fibro and the chronic pain? What can you do now in your daily mundane day?
It's totally different. Yeah, from the outside, it probably looks the same because I'm married to the same person. I live in the same house. I have the same work, the same passions, but it's actually totally different. I'm a grandmother. I'm down on the floor playing for hours with my grandson, like we're playing tracks or whatever he wants to play, for hours on the floor, crawling around on my knees. Sitting on the floor for hours. I didn't do that when I was with my own children. Here I am doing it with my grandchild because it doesn't hurt. My husband and I go dancing. At least we love to dance. At least we try to go at least once a week. And it's not formal ballroom, beautiful dancing, although we'd love to learn that too. I mean, it's out. Again, I'm 58, so I'm a product of the 80s. It's out rock and roll, jumping around to the wonderful music, dancing. I hike 5 miles a day.
Wow.
So yeah, I love it, and I have energy.
And the feet are not bothering you. The thin, the fact that you don't have fat in the bottom of your.
Yeah, no fatty deposit on the bottom of my feet. Not a problem. Yeah, no, not a problem. Yeah, I never have foot pain anymore. In fact, interestingly, after I realized that, oh, wait, I don't have foot pain anymore. I can look at all these cute shoes I can wear now. I don't have to wear these weird shoes with these weird lifts and weird like structural things in my shoes. I can wear sandals that are cute, that don't have any arch support, etc. So yeah, a lot of freedom. I started my own business at age 58 during a pandemic. Who does that? Who does that? I did it because I could and because I wanted to. So instead of living a smaller and smaller and smaller, safer, quieter life, I'm living a bigger and bigger, more daring life.
So mentioning safety, and we all know that safety is a key to this world of healing, the sensation that you are safe in the world, that you have a ground under you, that you are not shaky, the sense of expansion and calmness, and is a key to healing. So can you say, what is your take on safety, and how do you advise to cultivate a sense of safety?
It's a really good question, because it is, I believe that a sense of safety is the floor. That's the base of where we have to get. So it's a really important question. And it's hard to feel safe when you feel like your body is failing you.
Right.
And I did feel like my body was failing me because, resolve one thing and another thing happened. And we see that, right? Someone will have surgery on their shoulder and the other shoulder goes out or their knee goes out, right? So it's hard it's hard to feel safe when your body is telling you that you're not. And I will tell you that it was a slow unwinding, right? First realizing that, and I thought, how could I not feel safe? I live in a beautiful suburban area. It's got trees. It's very safe crime-wise. I can leave we went on vacation one time and left the garage door open and nothing happened. And so but that's different than safety in your body and safety in the relationships that you have with other people, safety in your feeling your own emotions, right? So going back, it was not safe in my family to feel emotions and express emotions.
Yes.
It was not safe to I had an alcoholic father. It was not safe to even exist sometimes. So, trying to go back there and unravel where this sense of unsafety happened and how it now manifests, right? So he's not alive anymore. So obviously it's not an issue there. And I'm an adult anyway. But it's
how
a pattern.
acknowledging the issue from the past, from childhood, how just acknowledging it, you develop a sense of safety suddenly. I mean, I am curious to learn what is the mechanism. You mentioned going back and pinpointing traumatic events or even not traumatic, but we perceive them as children as traumatic, even if they were minor. So, and how just by acknowledging them and seeing them and listening to them, how does this
Right.
for the and you mentioned, I think the key sentence that you said is feeling safe to feel.
Feeling safe to feel, that it's all right to feel the emotions. They can all reside inside me. Remember, I'm the goodest, right? So I want to see myself as good and doing good and being good. And being a good girl was highly prized. So this wouldn't surprise you that I'm the goodest. And it's very important to realize, and it's a long process before you finally get it in your heart. You can tell yourself, it's okay if I feel jealous. Everybody feels jealous. But until you realize in your heart that it is okay to feel these emotions and they do not define you, that everybody does feel petty, everybody does feel vengeful, everybody does feel jealousy or envy or some of these other shadow emotions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're a vengeful person. And it doesn't mean you're a jealous person. That's just energy coming through you, past you, and then washing through, right? It's just like a wave. It just comes through and passes through. And so some of it is knowledge. I mean, hearing, interviews like this one where someone talks about it. And some of it is you've got to experience it. You've got to sit in your own jealousy or sit in your own vengefulness and know and tell yourself it's okay. A lot of self-compassion work here. A lot of self-compassion that everybody feels this. I am feeling this. Anybody in my position would feel the same. And emotions are just energy in motion. They are not a personality trait.
So the key is to feel the emotions in order to feel safe under our skin. This is what
it's contrary to what you would think, right? But the key is to really go there. It's to really go there. And I think the more trauma that a person has, the harder it is for them to do so.
Yeah, emotions can be very scary.
But the emotions have to pass through. They really do. They really do. You've got to be able to realize that they can affect your body. And sometimes just knowledge that way. I mean, sometimes you don't even have to get to all the emotions, just knowing that you can have them and that you do repress can be enough for people. It was not enough for me, but it can be for others, just knowing that we all repress some things. And I'm not saying I understand all my emotions. I'm sure there are emotions I still repress, but I was able to uncover enough of them and sit with them and accept them and self-compassion myself for having them, that I was giving myself enough safety that I didn't have to have symptoms anymore.
Nice. Wow. Thank you. It was a very good, you pinpoint so many good insights regarding safety. So is there a book that you recommend for, not necessarily from the books of Sarno, is there a book that influenced you through the healing journey that you would love to recommend to us?
I'm going to have to think about that. Just one. There probably wasn't just one. Maybe.
Okay. So
yeah.
My last question to you is, because you had fibromyalgia, which is, as you said, it is a mysterious syndrome, which we don't understand, and it is probably a body-mind issue. And what characterizes it is the bracing pattern, a pattern of tightening the muscles and the fascia, the connective tissue is tightened, and maybe other stuff like the vessels or even the organs, the internal organs can tighten, and the skin. Can you say something? I know it is a more philosophical, deeper question, but I am interested to learn from your flesh and blood experience. What is your take on the bracing pattern in the body when it is physical? And emotional, of course, and mental.
Yeah, and so it was about, I don't know, 6 months into my initial journaling exploration, because I would, if you had asked me if was I a tense person, I would have said, no, I'm very calm, because when there's a crisis, I am your girl. I mean, I am good in a crisis. And I would say, no, I'm very calm. I'm peace loving. I'm a very calm person. And that again should be, like a warning sign, like nobody's this calm. But about 6 months in, I realized I am laced with tension. Like I hold my whole body in tension. And so it's no wonder that I had whole body pain, right, of fibromyalgia, because I was just ready to spring at any minute, just like, my fingers, my neck, if your ears could be tense, I'm sure they are, right? Let alone down the whole back chain and legs, et cetera, just ready to spring. And I think that being so much up in our minds and up in our thinking, we are disconnected to what is actually happening in our bodies, like what is actually tense. I mean, I can tell you, like, when I'm journaling, if I hit, and it doesn't happen every time, but when I hit the thing, my shoulders just drop. And I was not, even after all these years of doing this and helping others do this, I was not aware that my shoulders were way up there. But when I hit the thing, whatever it is that was actually bothering me, and it could be minute, down they come, just like 3-4 inches. It's crazy. So that bracing, it's just so full of tension, and what is that doing internally? Like, it's no wonder we're tired, right? Like, just to hold yourself in that position for hours a day is going to flare.
To ourselves?
What's that?
So why are we doing it to ourselves?
Why are we doing it to ourselves? I mean, I think it's just, for me, I know that it's part and parcel of my makeup, right? I know that I have to, that is how I'm made. And, you know, whether it's genetics or training from childhood, I have no idea. It does not matter because it just is. And so I know that I have to counter that by activating my parasympathetic. I know that I need to be breathing, belly breathing in with a longer exhale than an inhale a few times every day, just to reactivate. And I know that for me, I've got to look at those layers of emotion when something bothers me. I don't have to tell anybody else about them, and I don't. You know, it's not like I changed my personality on the outside. I just allow on the inside those feelings that I really have, and not to judge myself for them.
So the nugget that I took from your answer is that was really something new to me is you said that the bracing, you mentioned the disconnection between the brain and the thinking from the body, like when a person lives from the neck up,
Right.
it might cause the bracing pattern in the body.
Right. Yes, because you don't even realize you're doing it, right? There's no, you're not realizing you're all up in here and you're not even realizing it, or you're on your phone reading something and you're not even realizing how you're, you know, how you're, so body awareness, being reconnecting with your body. And if you're in pain, that's the last thing you want to do is reconnect with that pain, right? So reconnecting with the parts of your body that are not in pain is very important. You know, even with the fibromyalgia where I was basically head to foot pain, not everything hurt, right? Like my skin maybe didn't hurt, my nose maybe didn't hurt. So connecting my brain to those parts that were not hurting was very important.
I see. So it's very interesting. And I think I could talk with you the whole night, especially about the last
Thank
subject
you.
of disconnecting from the body and how disconnectivity creates this tightening and maybe after all it is the body, many cries for attention and connection. Again, interesting. It is a thought-provoking idea. So how beautiful. I'm happy that your story has a happy end. And I wish you all the best, joy and health. And I'm really grateful for you to sharing your personal story and your ideas and insights. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you so much for having me. I like to help others because I was helped by somebody, right? And so it's a mission for me to spread the word that there is hope, and the work lies within.
Okay, thank you.